The sky above the forest split open like it was being torn apart from the inside. A deep burning light poured through the clouds, red and gold, shaking the air itself. Birds dropped mid-flight. Trees bent as if something huge was passing over them, even though nothing was visible yet. Inside a small wooden treehouse at the edge of the forest, Kalen Virek froze. He was 16, alone most nights, used to silence. But this was not silence. This was pressure, like the sky was about to collapse on Earth. Then he saw it. A shape. Massive. Fast. Burning. It fell through the sky like a dying star that refused to disappear. Kalen's breath stopped. Impossible, he whispered, but his voice got lost in the shaking wind. The object hit the forest beyond the hill. A second later the impact arrived. Not sound first, force. The treehouse shook violently. Wooden beams creaked. Hanging tools fell to the floor. Kalen grabbed the railing just to stay on his feet as the world bent around him. For one sharp moment, everything went silent again. Then the scream came. Not human. Not animal. Something deeper. Something alive. Kalen's instincts told him to run. To hide. To stay far away. But his feet moved anyway. He grabbed a small flashlight, a rope, and a survival knife from a box under his bed. His hands were shaking, but he didn't stop. Something inside him refused to stay still while something unknown was dying out there. He climbed down the treehouse ladder fast, nearly slipping, then hit the ground running. The forest was wrong. That was the only thought in his mind. The trees were glowing faintly where the object had fallen. The air smelled like burned metal and rain at the same time. Every step Kalen took felt heavier, like the ground was resisting him. His heart hammered so loud he thought it would give him away. Another sound came. Full. Broken. Alive. It wasn't a roar. It was pain shaped like a voice. Kalen slowed down near a broken ridge of trees. Branches were snapped clean, not burned. Something had forced its way through them like they were paper. He stepped forward slowly. And then he saw it. At first, his mind refused to accept the shape. A creature lay half buried in the earth. Its body was long, scaled, and cracked with glowing fractures. Its wings, if they could still be called wings, were torn and folded under it like broken metal sheets. But it was not a dragon from stories. It was something worse. Something real. Its scales shifted like liquid stone, flickering between deep blue and burning gold. Every breath it took released faint sparks into the air. Its eyes were open but unfocused, as if it was fighting to stay in this world. Kalen stepped back once. Then stopped. Because the creature moved. Its head lifted slightly, slow and painful, and locked onto him. The air between them tightened instantly. Kalen felt it in his chest. Pressure like invisible hands pushing against his mind. His flashlight flickered. The ground beneath the creature glowed brighter, reacting to its presence. Then the forest around them snapped. Trees nearby cracked without wind touching them. Small stones lifted an inch off the ground. The creature's body reacted violently, as if Kalen's presence had triggered something unstable inside it. Kalen raised his hands slowly, not knowing why. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said quietly, voice shaking. The creature responded. Not with sound. With thought. A broken signal slammed into his mind like shattered glass. Images flashed, dark space, burning ships, falling worlds. Then a single fragment of meaning formed inside the chaos. Not enemy. Kalen stumbled back, breathing hard. His head throbbed like something had forced its way inside. The creature's glow dimmed slightly, as if that small connection cost it strength. It lowered its head again, struggling to stay conscious. Kalen should have run then. Every instinct told him to. But he didn't. Instead, he looked back at the forest behind him. If this thing was left here, something worse would come. Something had already caused the sky to tear open once. And now it knew where it fell. A distant sound rolled through the sky again. Faint, mechanical, not natural. Like something far above had started moving. Kalen made a decision in that moment that changed everything. He stepped forward again. Slow. Careful. Brave in a way that made no sense for someone his age. "I don't know what you are," he said, "but you're not dying here." The creature's eye shifted toward him again, weaker this time, but watching. Kalen moved closer, feeling the heat radiating from its broken body. The ground beneath it was still unstable, glowing in faint pulses like a heartbeat that didn't belong to Earth. He tightened his grip on the rope in his hand. Then he did something that made no logical sense. He started pulling it, slowly, carefully, out of the crater. The creature didn't resist. Not because it was calm, but because it had no strength left to fight. As Kalen dragged the impossible weight toward the direction of his treehouse, the sky above the forest flickered again. Something far away had locked onto the crash site. And it was getting closer. The forest did not feel the same after Kalen left the crash site. Every step he took back toward the treehouse felt heavier, like the ground itself was warning him to stop. The wounded creature, still half lifted, half dragged with the rope, barely made any sound now. Its glowing fractures dimmed, pulsing weakly like a dying signal. Kalen's arms burned. His breath came in sharp pulls. But he did not let go. Behind him, the crater slowly faded into darkness. But something else replaced it. A low vibration rolled through the air. Not thunder. Not wind. Something mechanical. Above the forest canopy, faint lights moved between the clouds, too smooth, too controlled to be natural. Kalen saw them only for a second, but that second was enough to freeze his thoughts. They saw it, he whispered. The creature shifted slightly at the sound of his voice. A weak pulse of light passed through its body, like it was reacting to fear. Kalen tightened the rope. No, stay with me. He changed direction slightly, taking a hidden path through thick trees instead of the open trail. Branches scratched his arms. Leaves tore at his clothes. Every instinct screamed at him to drop everything and run alone. But he didn't. Because if he left it, it would die. And something inside him refused that outcome. The creature suddenly made a broken sound, not a roar but a fractured mental pulse. Images hit Kalen again, weaker this time. Falling structures, burning skies, and a symbol that repeated itself like a warning. Then one clear fragment formed. On it. Kalen's stomach tightened. You're not safe from them either, he muttered, more to himself than to the creature. A sudden flash lit the forest behind them. Not lightning. A scan beam. Trees in the distance lit up white for a second, then went dark again as if something invisible was sweeping the area. They were searching. And they were close. Kalen started running harder, dragging the creature with renewed urgency. His treehouse was still half a kilometer away, but it felt like 100. The creature's weight shifted suddenly. It tried to move one wing, but the motion caused a sharp pulse of energy that cracked the ground beneath it. Kalen stopped instantly. Don't move, he said firmly, breathing hard. You'll get us both killed. The creature went still again as if it understood. That moment hit Kalen strangely. It was not just an animal. It was listening. He resumed moving, slower now, more careful. The forest grew thicker, darker. The canopy blocked most of the sky, but the faint hum above them never stopped. It followed. Then the treehouse came into view. A small wooden structure high above the ground, built between two strong oak trees. It looked fragile against everything happening around it, like it didn't belong in this reality anymore. Kalen felt a strange relief, but it didn't last. A sharp crack echoed behind him. He turned slightly. A tree snapped clean in half without being touched. Then another. Something invisible was scanning deeper into the forest now. They're getting closer, Kalen said under his breath. He pulled harder, forcing the creature forward. It groaned faintly in his mind again, weaker than before. Its energy was fading fast. Kalen reached the base of the treehouse ladder. His hands shook as he looked up. Getting both of them up would be difficult even on a normal day. Now, with something dying and something hunting them, it felt impossible. The creature suddenly lifted its head slightly. Another mental fragment pushed into Kalen's mind, but this one was different. Not fear. Direction. An image of the treehouse. Recognition. Kalen frowned. You know this place? The creature did not answer, but its glow flickered in a strange pattern, almost like memory trying to stabilize. That was enough. Kalen made a decision. I'll get you up there, he said quickly. Just hold on. He tied the rope around a strong beam near the ladder, then began pulling the creature upward inch by inch. It was heavier than it looked, as if gravity itself increased around it. His muscles screamed in protest. But slowly it worked. Halfway up, the creature suddenly spasmed. A burst of light exploded from its cracked body. The forest below lit up for a split second. Kalen froze. No, stop. The energy ripple spread outward, bending the air. Leaves stopped moving mid-fall. Even sound felt distorted. Then it stopped. Silence returned instantly. But it was a dangerous silence. Kalen looked down. The scanning lights in the distance had changed direction. They were coming here now. Fast. Great, Kalen whispered, pulling harder. Of course they saw that. With one final effort, he hauled the creature onto the wooden platform of the treehouse. It collapsed immediately, barely alive. Kalen climbed up after it, breath ragged, sweat dripping from his face. He shut the hatch beneath them and locked it. For a few seconds there was only silence. Then, A faint hum passed directly overhead. The treehouse vibrated slightly. Kalen held his breath. Outside, something massive moved through the sky above the forest, scanning slowly. The creature on the floor weakly opened its eyes. And inside Kalen's mind, one final broken fragment formed clearly for the first time. They found us. The treehouse felt smaller now. Not because the wood had changed, but because something impossible was inside it. Kalen stood still, listening to the faint vibration above the roof. The humming in the sky did not go away. It moved slowly, as if searching piece by piece, learning the forest like a hunter learning footprints. Below him, the wounded creature lay barely conscious. Its glowing fractures had dimmed even more, now flickering like a failing signal. Each breath it took released small sparks that died before touching the floor. Kalen slowly lowered himself beside it. "We need to hide you better," he whispered, though he wasn't even sure it could understand spoken words. The creature reacted faintly. Not with movement, but with thought. A weak pulse entered his mind again. But this time it was different. Not broken images. A structure. A memory trying to repair itself. Kalen felt a sudden pull, like being dragged through space without moving. His vision blurred for a second, and then he saw it. Not the forest. Not Earth. A vast sky filled with broken stars. Massive ships burning in silence. And something chasing them, something that erased light itself wherever it passed. Kalen gasped and pulled back instantly. What was that? The creature's eye opened slightly, watching him. Was trying to connect properly. Kalen realized something important in that moment. "This isn't just injured," he muttered. "It's damaged in its memory too." Above them, the humming stopped for half a second. That silence was worse than the noise. Kalen froze. Then the sky scanner moved again. Closer. Much closer. A thin beam of pale light swept across the forest outside. It passed over the treehouse, paused for a fraction of a second, then moved on. Kalen didn't breathe until it was gone. "They didn't lock on," he whispered. "Not yet." But the creature suddenly reacted sharply. Its body tensed. A burst of weak energy flickered out, and the wooden walls of the treehouse vibrated slightly. The floor creaked under invisible pressure. Kalen quickly placed his hands on it. "Stop. You'll expose us." The creature hesitated. Then, surprisingly, it obeyed. That moment hit Kalen harder than the crash itself. It was listening to him. Not as prey. Not as a beast. As if he had authority. Kalen studied it carefully. The fractures in its body were not random. They formed patterns, like broken circuits trying to reconnect. Every few seconds, light pulsed through those patterns, searching for stability. He realized something else. It wasn't just dying. It was broadcasting. "Your body is like a signal," he said quietly. "That's why they found you." The creature gave a faint pulse in response. Agreement. Kalen stood up slowly, scanning the small treehouse. He had very little. An old solar battery, a flashlight, some metal tools, and insulation foam used for cold nights. None of it made sense against something that could tear the sky open. But he had no choice. He started working immediately. He pulled the solar battery out and placed it near the creature. Then he began dismantling small metal parts from his survival kit, arranging them into a crude ring around it. "What I need is noise," he muttered. "Something that confuses signals." Outside, the sky scanner returned. This time it did not pass quickly. It hovered. The entire treehouse dimmed as if light itself was being evaluated. The wood creaked softly under invisible pressure. Kalen kept working. His hands shook, but his mind was sharp. He connected wires from the solar battery to metal strips, creating an unstable loop of energy reflection. It was not perfect. It was not even safe. But it was something. The creature suddenly reacted again. This time stronger. A sharp pulse entered Kalen's mind. He saw another fragment. Command symbol. Then destruction. Then silence. Kalen staggered slightly. "They're not just scanning," he said. "They're identifying." The creature's eye focused on him more clearly now. For the first time, it seemed fully aware of him as an individual. Then it sensed something different. A single broken thought. "Help, stop. Dominion." Kalen froze. Dominion? Before the creature could respond further, the sky above the treehouse shifted. A second light appeared beside the first scanner. Then a third. Multiple sources now. The forest outside darkened unnaturally, as if the sky itself was being pressed down. Kalen quickly grabbed the rope and secured the makeshift energy ring around the creature. "If this works," he said, "they won't see you clearly." The creature pulsed weakly. Not fear this time. Warning. Kalen followed its gaze upward. And then he heard it. Not sound. Not vibration. But a structured signal forming directly above them. The sky was being opened again. But not like before. This time, it was intentional. And it was targeting the treehouse. The air above the treehouse changed first. Not in sound. Not in light. But in weight. Kalen felt it instantly, like invisible pressure pushing down on his chest. The wooden beams around him creaked softly, reacting to something far above the clouds. The makeshift energy ring he had built around the wounded creature flickered unstable, as if it was struggling to hold its shape. The creature reacted at the same time. Its fractured body brightened sharply, then dimmed again, like it was fighting to stay conscious. A weak pulse entered Kalen's mind. Not words this time. A warning shaped like fear. Kalen looked up through the small gap in the treehouse roof. The sky was no longer natural. 3 dark shapes hung above the forest now. Massive. Silent. Not moving like aircraft, more like they were deciding where reality should bend. A thin beam of light extended from one of them and locked onto the forest floor directly beneath the treehouse. Kalen stepped back. They found us, he whispered. The creature made a faint movement, trying to lift itself. The energy ring around it cracked slightly, unable to stabilize under the scanning pressure. Kalen made a quick decision. No, he said firmly. Stay down. He grabbed the solar battery and slammed it into a second connection point in his improvised circuit. Sparks flew. The system overloaded for a second, then stabilized into a chaotic pulse pattern. Outside, the scanning beam paused. Just for a moment. Kalen noticed it immediately. They can't read it clearly, he muttered. Good. But the silence above did not mean retreat. It meant calculation. The largest of the 3 shapes shifted slightly. The sky darkened further, as if something was opening behind the clouds. The creature on the floor suddenly convulsed. A massive pulse of energy exploded outward from its body. The treehouse shook violently. Kalen nearly lost his balance as wooden planks groaned under invisible force. The energy ring shattered on one side, releasing a burst of light into the air. Outside, one of the scanners immediately locked harder. They saw that, Kalen said sharply. He rushed to the creature and pressed his hands against its glowing fractures. Stop fighting it, he shouted. You're making us visible. The creature's eye opened weakly. It was not fully conscious anymore, but something inside it still responded. A broken mental image entered Kalen's mind. A collapsing fleet. A battlefield of stars. And something hunting everything that moved. Then one clear fragment. Dominion, erase, all signals. Kalen's face tightened. So that's what you are running from? A deep mechanical tone echoed faintly from above. Not sound and air, but a structured command forming reality itself. The sky scanner was preparing something. Kalen knew it. They were no longer just searching. They were about to act. He looked around the treehouse quickly. There was no escape. No backup. No time. Only his system. Only his mind. He grabbed every remaining metal piece he had, tools, wires, scraps, and began rebuilding the energy ring with faster, sharper movements. His hands shook, but his thinking became clearer. If I can distort the signal, he muttered, I can make them think this whole area is unstable. The creature weakly lifted its head. It tried to send another thought, but it was broken again. Still, one fragment formed. Kalen shook his head. No, he said. Not happening. Outside, the sky suddenly brightened. A massive scanning field expanded downward like a net. The forest below lit up in segments, each section freezing in place as it was analyzed. The treehouse began to vibrate harder. The structure was being mapped. Kalen worked faster. He connected the solar battery directly into the ring core, bypassing safety limits. The system screamed with overload energy. But it worked. The ring surged. A chaotic field burst outward, distorting the area around the treehouse. Light bent strangely. Sound delayed slightly. Even gravity felt inconsistent. The scan beam hit the distortion field. And fractured. For a brief second, the Dominion scanners lost clear lock. Kalen exhaled sharply. Got you. But that relief lasted less than a second. Because the largest ship above the clouds shifted again. And this time it responded differently. A second beam formed. Thicker. Stronger. Not scanning anymore. Targeting. The creature suddenly opened its eyes fully. And for the first time, Kalen felt its mind connect clearly without breaking. One complete thought entered him. They will not stop now. Kalen looked at it. I know. The treehouse groaned loudly as pressure increased. The targeting beam stabilized. The air around them began to distort violently, as if space itself was tightening. Kalen realized something cold and sharp. "They're not searching anymore," he whispered. "They're preparing to fire." The creature's glow flickered one last time. It was dying. But it was aware. And in that final awareness, it did something unexpected. It released a single pulse into Kalen's mind. Not fear. Not warning. But recognition. Then another fragment formed. "You are not in our records." Kalen stared at it, confused. "What does that mean?" The sky above answered before the creature could. The beam locked completely. The entire forest went silent. And the Dominion fired. The moment the beam struck, the world stopped making sense. A pillar of white-blue light dropped from the sky with no warning, no sound, no delay. It hit the treehouse directly. Kalen didn't even have time to breathe. The entire structure vanished inside the brightness. Wood, air, light, everything folded inward like reality had been grabbed and crushed. For a fraction of a second, there was only silence. Then the forest below erupted in shock waves. But something was wrong. The treehouse was still there. Not destroyed. Changed. Inside the blinding impact zone, Kalen stood frozen, shielding his eyes, expecting pain, expecting death. But none came. Instead, the air around him felt stretched, like space itself had bent to avoid something inside the treehouse. The energy ring he had built earlier was gone. But in its place, something new existed. A structured lattice of light surrounded the wounded creature, holding it in place like an invisible shield. The Dominion beam was still pouring down, but it was splitting around the lattice, redirected in impossible angles. Kalen's mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. "It redirected it," he whispered. The creature on the floor gave a weak pulse. Not pain. Stability. Above them, the sky ships reacted instantly. The scanning formation shifted. The beam increased in intensity. The forest outside began to glow as entire sections were analyzed at once. But the treehouse remained untouched inside the distortion field. Not invisible. Not hidden. Rewritten. Kalen slowly looked at his hands. "I didn't build this," he said quietly. "So what did?" A faint pulse entered his mind. The creature. But different now. Stronger. Clear. It was not just reacting anymore. It was connecting. Fragments flowed into Kalen's mind like repaired signals. Ancient networks. Broken interstellar codes. Systems designed to survive extinction events. And one truth forming from it all. Human presence, incompatible with Dominion mapping logic. Kalen frowned. That doesn't make sense. But the structure around them reacted again as if responding to that thought. The lattice expanded slightly. Outside, one of the Dominion ships shifted position. Then something unexpected happened. The beam faltered. Not stopped. Not blocked. Rejected. The sky flickered as if reality itself had refused the input. Kalen stepped forward slowly, his heart racing. "What did you do?" he asked the creature. The creature's eye opened fully for the first time. The fractures across its body were no longer chaotic. They had begun to align into patterns. It sent a final complete thought into Kalen's mind. "You stabilized the fallback core." Kalen's breath caught. Fallback core. The lattice around them pulsed again. And then he understood. The solar battery. The metal wiring. The broken signal loops. His entire improvised system. It had not just confused the Dominion scan. It had triggered something inside the creature. Something dormant. Something defensive. The creature shifted slightly, weak but aware. Outside, the Dominion fleet changed tactics. Instead of firing again, the ships began forming a circle above the forest. Energy built between them, not as a beam but as a synchronized field. Kalen recognized it instinctively. "They're isolating us." The creature pulsed once. Agreement. But there was something else in that pulse. Urgency. Kalen looked at it carefully. "You're running out of time, aren't you?" The creature did not respond directly. Instead, it released one final stream of memory into Kalen's mind. A collapsing civilization. A war that consumed entire star systems. And a fleet like the one above them, erasing anything it could not classify. Then a final image. The creature was not just a survivor. It was a carrier. A living encryption key. And it had chosen Earth's first human contact. Kalen stepped back slowly. "So I wasn't random," he whispered. "You came here for a reason." The lattice around them tightened. Outside, the Dominion field began compressing. The forest below started to darken as energy drained from the air itself. The ships were preparing a final containment collapse. If they succeeded, Everything inside the forest would be erased, not destroyed but removed from all detection layers. Kalen's chest tightened. There has to be a way out, he said. The creature pulsed faintly. One last option entered his mind. Not an escape. A transmission. A rewrite signal. But it required full synchronization. And it required trust. Kalen looked at it. At the broken, glowing being that had fallen from the sky. At the thing that should have destroyed his world, but instead was asking for help. He nodded. Do it. The creature's body flared weakly. The lattice around them expanded instantly. Kalen felt it immediately, his mind connecting directly to something far larger than the treehouse. Not pain. Not fear. But overwhelming input. The Dominion field outside began to fracture again. For the first time, the ships above hesitated. Their formation wavered. A corrupted signal was spreading through their network. Kalen realized what was happening. They're losing control. The creature pulsed one final time. A full synchronization lock. And Kalen felt it. Not just the forest. Not just the treehouse. But the attention of something far beyond the Dominion fleet. Something that had been sleeping until now. The sky above the ships darkened in a way that was not natural. The Dominion fleet began to retreat. Fast. Too fast. Alarms, silent but visible in light patterns, flashed across their formation. Kalen stared upward. They're running. The creature's light dimmed again, exhausted but stable now. Kalen exhaled slowly. We did it. But the moment of relief did not last. Because as the Dominion ships vanished into the upper atmosphere, the creature sent one final broken fragment into Kalen's mind. It was not fear. Not relief. It was warning. Something else had noticed the transmission. Something older than the Dominion. And it was already turning toward Earth.